The first light of dawn slipped over the rooftops of Tus, painting the desert town in soft gold. In a quiet corner of the marketplace, a 10-year-old innocent boy crouched beside a small clay furnace, his face glowing with curiosity. His robe was simple and dusty, his sleeves rolled high, and his hands, stained with charcoal, worked carefully as if performing a sacred act. His name was Jabir ibn Hayyan, the son of a humble pharmacist. Few in the town noticed the spark that burned behind those dark eyes, a spark that would one day light the path of science for the world. Inside their modest home, the air was thick with the scent of herbs, vinegar. His father, Hayyan, arranged bottles on wooden shelves, teaching his son the properties of each root and mineral. Everything Allah created, he would say, has a purpose. When you study His creation, you are reading His signs. Jabir listened in awe, memorizing every word. He loved how a knowledge seemed to turn the ordinary into something divine. But life in Tus was not easy. His father's work brought him into contact with scholars and travelers from distant lands, but also with political tensions of the time. When Jabir was 15, tragedy struck. His father passed away suddenly, leaving the family in sorrow. For nights, Jabir sat under the desert sky, staring at the stars his father once taught him to recognize. "I will continue your work," he whispered, "and seek the wisdom you loved." That promise became the flame that guided his life. As he grew, Jabir's thirst for knowledge only deepened. He traveled from Tus to Kufa and then to Baghdad, carrying little but a small satchel of notes and unshakable determination. The world around him was changing. The Abbasid Caliphate had turned its capital into a center of learning, where Muslims, Christians, and Jews gathered to study the secrets of the universe. And in that golden age of knowledge, Jabir found his teacher, the great Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, a popular Muslim scholar from early Islamic era. The Imam was known not only for his wisdom, but for his humility and balance between faith and reason. "Science without faith blinds," Imam Ja'far told him one evening. "Faith without science binds. The believer must walk between them, using knowledge to serve, not to boast." Jabir bowed his head. Those words etched themselves into his heart. From that moment on, his work became an act of worship. He began experimenting with materials, metals, salts, herbs, writing down everything he observed. His methods were revolutionary for his time. While others relied on superstition, Jabir trusted observation, repetition, and record-keeping. His small room in Kufa glowed each night with the light of his furnace, the air filled with the hiss of steam and the smell of minerals reacting. His neighbors often laughed. "He's trying to turn copper into gold," they said. Jabir only smiled. "I'm not turning metal into gold," he would whisper. "I'm turning ignorance into understanding." Years passed, and Jabir's reputation grew. His writings multiplied into hundreds of treatises, each filled with meticulous notes. He was among the first to describe processes we still use today: distillation, crystallization, evaporation, sublimation, and calcination. He developed acids that could dissolve metals, even gold, calling one of them aqua regia, the royal water. He built furnaces that allowed controlled heating and glass instruments designed for precise measurement. But to Jabir, these were not merely scientific tools, they were reflections of divine order. Whenever an experiment succeeded, he murmured, "Subhanallah." When one failed, he said, "Alhamdulillah." In his writings, he often compared chemistry to the soul's purification. "Just as metals are refined by fire," he wrote, "so too is the human heart refined by knowledge and faith." One afternoon, a student asked him, "Master Jabir, what do you see in those bottles that we do not?" Jabir smiled. "I see patience, he said. Every reaction takes time, just like every soul takes time to grow. If you rush either, you destroy both. He never separated learning from morality. Knowledge without humility, he would tell his students, is poison. Humility without knowledge is sleep. The scholar must stay awake and humble. As the years passed, Jabir's fame reached far beyond Kufa. Caliphs heard of his brilliance. Scholars traveled across deserts to study under him. His books, written in clear Arabic, spread to Andalusia, then to Europe, where they were translated into Latin. There, his name became Geber, and European scientists centuries later would call him the father of chemistry. But Jabir himself never sought fame. When his students praised him, he said, "I am not the father of chemistry. I am only the son of patience." Of firelight, the shelves lined with scrolls and jars. Children from the neighborhood would peek through the doorway, curious about the smells and colors inside. Jabir would often invite them in. "Come," he'd say kindly, "this is what Allah meant when He said He made the world in balance. Look how even fire obeys His command." One curious child once asked, "But isn't fire dangerous, Master?" Jabir chuckled. "So is ignorance, my son. That's why we must learn." He taught that science was not the enemy of religion, but its mirror. To understand creation was to understand the Creator's mercy. And so even as his body weakened, Jabir continued to teach, to write, and to seek truth. His ink never dried, his mind never rested. He aged gracefully, his beard turning silver, his robe and turban white as salt. His eyes, though dimmed by years of study, still carried the warmth of discovery. Late in his life, on a quiet evening, Jabir sat outside under the same desert sky of his childhood. The stars stretched endlessly above him, and the wind carried the scent of earth and memory. One of his students, noticing the old man's silence, asked, "What are you thinking, Master?" Jabir smiled faintly. "When I was young," he said, "I looked to the stars for answers. Now I see that every atom carries the same light. The more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. That is the beauty of knowledge. It humbles you." He paused, gazing at the horizon. "Tell the next generation," he whispered, "that Islam never feared knowledge. It gave it birth." In the years after his passing, his words echoed across centuries. His books became the foundation of modern chemistry. His experimental methods shaped the scientific process itself. But beyond all that, his greatest legacy was his spirit, a Muslim scholar who proved that faith and reason are not enemies, but allies. Even today, his words still echo in laboratories around the world, in every spark, every experiment, every discovery born from curiosity. And so if you ever find yourself looking at a flask bubbling in a modern lab, remember the man who first believed that knowledge was not the enemy of faith, but its twin flame. Jabir ibn Hayyan, the seeker of truth, the dreamer of elements, the man who turned alchemy into science and worship into wisdom.